We're back again with just a little tutorial here on something that I promised that I would do. And let me start off by saying that the stuff that I'm doing here is just the way I do it. I'm not throwing shade on anybody else's method of getting these stained glass pieces done. However it works for you is terrific. All I'm showing you is the way I'm doing it. I've been doing it a long time, but that does not make me right. It just makes it my way of doing it. This is just a little lead piece that's been sitting around behind me for a while. The customer purchased it, and then they're going to pick it up. They're moving at some point, and they're going to pick it up when they move. So it's not a big deal. It's just a little piece, but for demonstration purposes, it's going to work great. I like to do large leaded glass windows. I've got 3 or 4 of them hanging here in the shop, but this camera is not necessarily as portable as my phone. This is another camera that I have. I'm working with it. If this camera doesn't do what I want it to do, I'm going to get rid of it and get a better camera. But anyway, what we're going to talk about is these lead shears, and I promised that I would introduce these. Most people that are in the, well, I'm speaking mainly to the people that are on this Stained Glass Addicts page, and most of the people there or anywhere else on Facebook in respect to stained glass are all in copper foil. I have my reasons for thinking that's how that happened, but I think people that have been introduced to stained glass over the last 25 or 30 years went to a class somewhere, took a beginner's class, and even back in the days, long time ago, 40 something years ago, when I was teaching classes, we taught copper foil because it was a way for the class to go for 4 or 5 weeks on Tuesday nights at 7 o'clock, and they'd work for an hour, hour and a half, and then they would come away with a piece that was, you know, decent, and it wasn't nearly as difficult to teach as lead. And then lead is another program because not only do you, there's a different consideration for the glass that is cut to the cartoon, and then it has to fit under the lead came. And for those that are not privy to the much knowledge about lead, this is 3/16, and I use rounded crown lead. There's all kinds of lead. There's lead that's flat on the face, but this is the face of the cane, and it's rounded. I'm going to turn this where I hope you can see this. Rounded. This is 3/16 of an inch wide across here. It only gives us about 2 millimeters of space underneath here to get your glass cut right. And this stuff now a piece like little tiny window like this, I think this must be about 15, 16 inches tall, and I don't know, 10 inches wide, something like that. Anyway, actually it's pretty little piece, but anyway, a little more difficult to get that 3/16 lead to work for you than the 1/4 inch. Now here's some 1/4 inch lead, 1/4 inch face, and again, I can't hold this up for you to see it because it's a longer piece. Rounded crown. In other words, the face or the crown of the lead is round. Square face lead is real pretty. Doesn't go around curves real good. And so I end up using, for the most part, all of this rounded crown stuff because it'll take a curve, whereas the square face stuff does not go around curves quite as well as this stuff. Anyway, since I started out doing this in 1976, and I've mentioned this before, but there's you know, obviously no internet, no cell phones, no camera phones, no anything, and I didn't know enough to go to copper foil first and get my feet wet there, and I went to lead right off the bat because I just thought that's what you did. And so I started out learning how to do this glass work in a garage on top of a pool table that I put a piece of plywood on top of. And oh man, it was a struggle. But anyway, I started out, and the only way back then, if I'm remembering this right, this is a cheap version. This is a lead knife, sharp along the top here. And I had back in the day, and anybody that's done this work much at all, I had a Don Carlos knife, which is a much more expensive knife than this, probably better. This is a fan out, this cheap foreign made lead knife. There are people here in the U.S. that make knives, real knives. I think they're $70, $80, $90, $100. Real beautiful lead knives for people that are, you know, connoisseurs of tools. And for a long time, this is how you cut your lead. And you would mark well, let's see, here's 3/16. You would mark where I want an angle. So there's an angle right there. So you would mark that angle right there. In fact, there's that angle's right there. You'd mark that angle with your felt tip right there, and you wanted to cut that angle on that lead, so you would get down on the table and rock this thing back and forth gently to get through the face of the lead first, and then you could go straight on down through the heart. Now that wing, or the what I want to call it, vertical part of that came is the heart, and then of course the back of the face, or the back of the lid. And once you got through the face of the lid, then you could go straight down with a knife, and there's your angle. And then you would let me grab a Grosing pliers here. And then for the most part, if a little bit of it was collapsed or whatever, you'd get your Grosing pliers there, straighten it out, and then put it in there. That's what happened for many years. And then I don't know when these came about, but then this tool came out, the lead dikes. And oh boy, this changed our lives here. We thought, oh man, because still people use this. I use it on some things, back, on some leaded work. I'd get up in a corner or something. I want to cut just a tiny little sliver out. I'll do it with the end of this knife. However, we got into these things, and let me just cut an angle here. Well, let's do a straight across. So we'll cut a straight across, and you get this real nice square cut. Well, that changed my life, because I thought, oh boy, this is so much easier than rocking that lead knife back and forth across this lead and go in that direction. And then it would also cut an angle. Let's see what I'm doing. So you got a pretty good angle there. All right, now the problem is that, and you can tell how good somebody is with lead work to some extent, if you look at their piece of work all cut out, the glass cut out, and you see these, pretty good sized gaps all around where the lead intersects. In other words, where this piece intersects this piece. Well, they're not getting their lead cut very close. However, you've got some slack there, because the solder will cover up a lot of holes. So, consequently, if you're not a good lead cutter, your fabrication skills are, not that great, then you've got these holes here, and you're going to come back and solder that up. Well, the bigger that hole is, the more dancing around you're going to do with the soldering iron. And if you're not real good at this, you're going to melt that lead. And I have tutorials on my page. They're not really titled. I never thought anybody would pay that much attention to what I was doing, so I was just throwing tutorials up on my Facebook page during COVID to give somebody or people, not really for anybody that did stained glass work, but more for people that have no idea of how this stuff's done, a little knowledge about the craft itself, and give them something to look at other than the news and how many people died that day. So I didn't really title anything, because I didn't think anybody would pay that much attention to it. So, and I've said this before, but I've been, toiling away in obscurity for nearly 5 decades with this stuff. So I never paid that much attention to it. Never thought that much about my abilities, because I would get on Facebook or look at other people's work and think, oh man, I got a long way to go before I can consider myself any good at this stuff. And I still don't. I said it before, I think I'm an advanced apprentice. That's about where I'm at. I know people that are masters of this craft, and I've said this before, I am not one of them. I might be one if I live long enough, but I'm not one yet. Anyway, back to this. So we could cut this angle, and that was actually pretty easy. However, if you were working on a window then, and you had a steep angle, and say let's go right here. Say we need an angle like that. Well, now you got trouble, because this thing's not going to cut that right there, because it's going to collapse either the face of the cane or the bottom of the cane. Well, what I would do then, now watch, it's just going to pinch this up, because it can't make that angle. And then what happens is it crushes that lower section. So then I get in here, well, how can I do that? Well, I want that real steep angle. So what I would do then would come underneath this thing and cut that, and then come back and cut. Now somebody else is better at this than I am, but anyway, and they got the way to do this. Anyway, I would come back and trim that thing to get myself a pretty good angle, but I'm still collapsed a little. So then I'm going to come up here and try to straighten this out a little bit. Well, it's kind of raggedy, but I'm going to make that pretty good miter up, if I'm trying to go into something that has a steep angle. You say, well, what difference does that make? Just get it close, because the solder is going to cover it up. True, except for the closer that you can get this lead to where you want it to intersect. In other words, the ideal situation is that they just butt right up into each other and there's no space. And then you say, well, what difference does the space make? Because it's going to get covered up with solder. Well, here's the difference it makes. That if that lead, this piece of lead, butts exactly up to this thing right here, then when you come back in with your flux and you come back in to solder that, there's no hole there for that solder to run down into and run off to someplace else. Plus, you're down there on the joint, got it soldered, and back off of it. And what happens to lead if you're not really good at this, and I'll show you, I'm going to do a little lead job here in the next few days if I can get myself together. I got projects going 9 directions here, and sometimes I have all these plans that I'm going to do. What is today, Friday? Then I'm going to do this tomorrow, and I'm going to do it the next day, and then somebody comes in and they got to have something right now, and it's a repair job, and blah, blah, blah. So sometimes my things get put off. But anyway, I plan to do, I've got it laid out over here, I plan to do a little small lead job, and then I'll show that soldering on that thing. But I do have tutorials about how you get lead soldering done. And I'm here to tell you that it's extreme, I won't say extreme, it's much more difficult than copper foil. And the reason is because the solder, I have a piece of solder here somewhere. Here it is. The solder, there it is. This is 60-40. I use 60-40. Forget that 50-50. 60-40. So you want to use 60-40. It costs more money, flows a little better, and it's stronger because of that extra 10% of the tin versus the 50-50, the half tin, half lead solder. Although the 60-40 is more expensive, it flows a little better, more strength. Okay. Anyway, so this stuff melts at a different temperature than the lead does. And what happens is, I don't think, in my opinion, when you get down here on this, if you're not really good with that iron, and I have some tutorials that show you how to do lead soldering. If you're not real good with that soldering iron, and I'll show you how to get there as soon as we do a lead job, the lead doesn't melt, it just vaporizes. So say we're right here, and I'm not good at lead soldering, and I'm having trouble, and I'm having struggling, and I get down there, and I'm down there just a little too long on these joints right here, and boom, it's gone, and you end up with a hole here where the lead used to be. Well, now what? Well, the way I would fix that if I had to fix it, and I don't really generally have to do that kind of stuff anymore, at one time I did, is I'll come in here with a little 3/16 foil, lay that foil in that hole, clean that thing up, come back in with a little flux and dance around there and try to get that joint to look right. But you can get, this piece right here that we're looking at right here has some really good looking solder joints on the lead, and those are a product of this lead intersecting the pieces of other lead that it connects to. And if you get that down, then you learn the soldering, then the beautiful thing about lead is you get these nice clean lines. And you're paying, I hope I pronounce this right, homage. You're paying homage to the beginning days of the craft from a long time ago. And when lead is used in the right place, it's just gorgeous. I love to do it. In fact, I think on my Facebook page, if you go back, I'm thinking about 2.5 or 3 months, you'll see this pretty good looking lead piece. It's got a heart in the center of it, some confetti glass that the heart's made out of, and there's tutorials of how that thing was built, so you can see how I'm doing the lead work and how I fit the lead and all that blah blah blah. Anyway, so back to the point of this video, there's not that many lead people out there. I think there should be more, but anyway, I don't know where I was perusing YouTube, and there I saw some article or some YouTube thing about lead shears. So I thought, whoa, that piqued my interest. Lead shears, what's that? And so I saw this tool here. Now look at this clunky looking thing. I saw this tool, and I thought, what's that? And you know, everybody and their brother is inventing some stained glass tool to make this so easy to do. And I generally don't fool around with too many of these, you know, new something that's going to revolutionize everything, change the way things have been done. Anyway, so I thought, and the tool, and I'll give you the website. It was $40 with $10 shipping, so it's $50. So I thought, well, I'll throw 50 out there, and then if it's not any good, I'll just throw it in the trash because maybe it's good. So anyway, I got this thing, and I thought, well, all right. And there is a YouTube video of this, and sometimes I'm leery of some of the stuff that you see on YouTube, particularly if somebody's trying to sell something. You know, it's like that guy, who's a guy, you know, that goes to the state fair and chops all the tomatoes, and he's cutting nails in half, and then tomato slices are flying everywhere. You buy this Ginsu knife or whatever it is, you get it home, and, you know, it's worthless. So anyway, I bought this thing, and I've got it out of the box expecting it to be a dog, and I did what I'm going to do right now. I took well, you can do it on any lead. I just cut that piece there. Let's go this way. So I thought, well, let's just put this thing to the test. Now, I can do a 45 all day with this thing, see, because that's about the limitation of this piece, a 45. And it actually will curl up one side of that face. That's not a big deal because you just take your grazing plier and straighten it up. But if you've got 650 intersections on a piece of glass and you have to take every single one of those and straighten up that lead, you know, it just gets ridiculous. So that 45, that's good. That worked out real nice. And this is exactly what I did. So I thought, well, I'm going to put this thing to the test, and I'm going to put a real sharp angle. Now I want you to be able to see that. I'm looking at my camera here. Makes you. So now that's a nice sharp angle. And there are windows and projects that you can get into. You know, you want that. You got like the tail of a peacock or something. You know, you got some lead coming down and intersecting. So you want these intersections, deep angles. And I just have to carve those out with a combination of the lead knife and this thing. And not a big deal. I'm going to get it covered up with solder anyway. However, if I could get those things to fit tight, then the soldering looks so much better because you're getting these good angles. So anyway, enough of that. So let's do this. So I open this. This tool has a lock on it. And I promise I don't get any money out of, you know, what do they call that? Influencing. Probably would be a good job to be in, but I don't influence anybody other than those who want to pay attention on how to do some of this stuff. I bought this thing like everybody else. Anyway, open that little thing there. Okay, and what makes this thing, one of the things that makes this cool is this blade is you go down to the hardware store, Lowe's, Home Depot, and buy this box knife blade all day long. And in fact, they send you 3 with it. I haven't even opened it up. There's supposed to be 3 blades inside the handle here. So anyway, open that thing up, and here's exactly what I did the first time I got it. And I just put look right down that blade and set their lead on there square and just, oh man, look at that. And the first time that did that, I bought this tool, I went, oh my gosh, you got to be kidding. I can't believe that. Look at that. And so I'm thinking, oh man, instantaneously my life changed. So I caught a job right after I bought this tool, which was that heart leaded window. I think that thing was 24 by 16 or something. Not a huge window. Had some pretty intricate lead work in it. And it had the 3/16 lead, which turns any job into a more difficult job since you only have this 2 millimeters. Where's my little... Oh yeah, I wouldn't even... Hang on here. There you go. I do everything in millimeters. So, I'm going to make sure you can see this. Oop, there you go. Well, there's 1 millimeter, 2 millimeters. So now you look at 2 millimeters, but man, you gotta know how to cut some glass to get 2 millimeters underneath the face of that lid. All right. Anyway, so this thing right here, I went to work on that job with this cutter, and I'm telling you, it just flew along because the cutter makes these crazy. Now, I don't know. Let's see how far we can go with this. I'm not sure I've even tried to get something ridiculous. Oh, man. Now, I'm figuring we're not going to get that, but we might. Anyway, let's back up on this jaw just a little bit right there. Now, I've got it sitting right on that line. Oh, man. This guy ought to send me, well, I don't need another one. I think the crazy thing would last forever. And if this blade got dull on you, just change it out. That's insane right there. That's just nuts. A cut like that. That's absolutely a miracle. That might be the best. Well, I've never seen anything like it. That's an incredible tool. I'm so excited. Oh, man. Now, you can take that piece of lead right there and get that thing down to, it may even cut one sharper than that. I don't know, there's got to be a limitation to what this thing can do. Let's do this. I don't know. Hey, we're doing an experiment right here. Let's do a crazy angle. Ooh. Can you see the item? Somewhere along the way, this thing's going to give up on us. All right. That's a long... I'm looking at the camera, making sure you can see that. Yeah. Okay, let's try that. I have no idea if that one's going to work. So I'm going to hold this steady and put the blade right on there. Okay, now I've got it up in the air where we can see it. I'm holding it steady. Gosh, man. Oh, that's just insane. I wish I'd have been smart enough to invent this tool. That's beautiful. Just beautiful. And I think if I'd have held that maybe just a little steadier, it would be even straighter. But boy, I tell you what, you can work with that. And the beauty of this is, and I'll tell you what's exciting about this, is when you're coming down onto a piece of glass and you're intersecting another piece of glass here that's running up this way, now you've got lead going all the way down and covering up that hole underneath that where the glass comes up and hits this other piece of lead. And now, if you're coming and hitting another piece of lead right here like that, can you see that? Okay, here. You're hitting another piece of lead like that. That's so easy to solder, and you're going to get this incredible solder joint on that. This is a life-changing tool. For the people that do lead work, there you go. All right, now last thing, let me move this out of the way, and we're going to, one more time, I don't know about one more, a little bit more, I'm going to cut this glass again for you. This is a different piece of glass, and I want to make the same statement I made yesterday, and I had one person thank me for this. They said, thank you so much for telling people when you're cutting this glass that it's easy. And it is. And the reason I'm using some easy glass, we could use some hard glass too, but the reason I'm using the easy glass is I want you to be able to see the fracture and be able to see what I'm doing. But this is Tecta, Bullseye Tecta. And Tecta is a glass that we use for the base on about anything we're going to fuse or paint on. I don't use it for much. I'm not necessarily in a stained glass window, although it does have a little texture in it. I'm looking for a more pronounced texture like Baroque or glue chip or something like that. And but this glass is amazing glass in fusing, because you can fuse it to Bullseye glass or glass that it has the same. I just stay with the same brand. So if you're going to get into fusing and you're fusing Yakagani, use their glasses that are compatible for fusing. If you're using Bullseye, use their glasses that are compatible for fusing. Now, in fusing on Bullseye, anything that Bullseye makes that's fusible works with Tecta. And Tecta is a great glass, a base glass. It's always exactly the same thickness. You know what it's going to do before you even put it in the kiln. I've got some stuff in the kiln right now that's getting ready to fire. It finally turned cool here in Minnesota, so I can start firing up the kiln. Going to do some painting. I've got maybe this little leaded painted piece to do. So anyway, let's cut. And like I say again, you do not have to be a real skilled glass cutter to be able to cut this glass. Maybe some, what do I want to say? Maybe a little beyond a beginner and under a novice or something like that, whatever skill level that is. And you can cut this stuff. I'm just demonstrating the method, not necessarily, I've got some Bullseye over here, but with most all the glass I've got a use for, like nearly all of it. So I hate to just throw off the good stuff showing you these cuts when I can show you on this less expensive glass. So we'll do what we did yesterday. Let's get where you can see this. There we go. And we'll just put a line on here. Can you see? This is black. Maybe I need to. I'll just shift to this white paper. Let's do this. I brought this white paper out here. I've got a rubber mat that I work on. It's over here. Anyway, a rubber mat that I generally work on. People say, well, we work on carpet. The only problem with carpet is that it picks up the little pieces of glass, and you can sure get yourself the heel of your hand cut. So I get rubber mat, and this is not good because it'll retain the pieces of little chunks of glass too. But I just had a chunk of that laying around, so I put it there to show you, and then I backed out and decided not to do that. Anyway, let's put it on here. We can see this. And I'm looking at the camera, where the camera is here. There we go. How do we want to do this? There you go. Okay, why don't we do this? We'll cut 2 cuts. I'm just going to show you one more time. I'm not trying to take all your time. Show you one more time how to use this thing here. And if people are asking me a little bit about the pressure you apply and all that kind of stuff. So we're going to hold this like you hold a conventional glass cutter. Can you see me? Yep. Let me get down here where you can see. There you go. Okay, and all we're going to do, same thing I told you yesterday, between your 2 fingers. Can't go right, can't go left, can't go back. It's held between your thumb, and these fingers I'm dragging, and that's how I know what kind of pressure I'm applying and also know where I am. Rather than bring the cutter down, let's turn this sideways so you can see. Bring the cutter down like that to correspond to the angle on the bottom of this cutter. Kick that cutter up. I want to make sure, let me pull this camera this way. Yep. Kick that cutter up, and then the pressure that you're applying is all going down to the glass. The more you angle that glass cutter down this way, the less of that same amount of pressure is applied to the glass. And I'll exaggerate this, but if I pull this thing all the way down here, well then the pressure that I'm applying is, decreased by quite a lot. So kick it up and go up right to the edge or close to the edge. You don't have to go right over the edge or anything. Bring that cutter down and just apply. And I think we should try to do one that doesn't work for the next one. I tried to do it yesterday, and I kept being too successful. And I stop right before I get to the edge, all right? And then we know we have a score mark all along that line, right? All right. So here we go. I have up written on this thing because I'm not that smart, and I'll turn the thing the wrong direction. But there's that little bump right there. And I think we'll turn this thing sideways so I can show you how you use it every different direction. Well, this bar moves. This bar here will move around a full 360. So normally, if we were going to run this glass like this, we would put the bar perpendicular to the score. We can also turn the bar 90 degrees and go to the side of this thing if we wanted to. So we'll do that. And see, now there's a line on that. Hey, you can see that line. There's a line there, and all I'm going to do, I'm trying to hold this out, is I'm going to take my hand out here and just give it just a gentle squeeze. And if I'm going to be real quiet here, so we'll hear it, and in the case of this Tecta, you'll actually see it. I hope you heard that little bump. Oh, let's see if we can see I can see the fracture. I don't know whether you probably can't see it. Okay, let's go. Yeah, well, let's go right here. Okay, and we'll do it again. Oh, look at there. You know what that means right there? That means that I varied the pressure as I was coming down that glass. And that's a mistake, and I'm glad I made it. All right, I don't have to do it on purpose. Let's go this way. All right. So when I cut that, or when I scored that glass, going all the way down there, right at this point somewhere here, I backed off that pressure and did not apply the right amount of pressure. And that's why this broke out right there. So let's see if I've done that anymore. Let's go right here. So let's nurse this score. Oh. We're just moving that bar right under there. Let's go right here. You see how I'm moving the bar around? Okay, so that was the only place I made a mistake. But if you If you needed this piece of glass, you just ruined it. So let's do it again. And I don't need to demonstrate how not to do it now because I just made that mistake. All right, so let's do it again. Now this time I'm going to pay a little more attention to what I'm doing. All right, and let's go down here again. And this time I increase the pressure ever so slightly and trying not to vary the pressure. Now if I screw it up again, I'm just having not a great day. Okay, we're doing it again. We're going to I'm right on that score mark, and we're going to apply just a little pressure. And I tell you what, because I had that run of wasn't bad luck, it was I didn't do it right. All right, now we've got this fracture running that direction, and here's the critical area right here coming across here. So let's go, and look, I see how I can move that bar around. Okay, I moved, let's see, the fracture is right there. So let's take, and isn't that beautiful how you can move that bar around? Now I'm really gentle here. Back up just a little bit, trying to be really gentle because I don't want to lose this thing right here. There, okay, now I'm just nursing that fracture. There it is right there. I'm just nursing it around that curve. We made the curve, so now we got it home free. Unless, if it was, you did this mistake or I did this mistake, if this glass takes off and runs off the side of this strip here again, then we did it again. We've screwed up our pressure. Okay, we're just moving this along nice and slow. We're about to get it. There it is. Okay, so now I don't have to demonstrate again now how not to do it. That original piece that broke out is nobody's fault but mine, because what I did is somewhere along that score I varied the pressure, and what happened was that the fracture came down the original score line and then got lost. Where do I go? Because me, the glass cutter, the person running the glass cutter, backed off the pressure just enough that the fracture can't find the score. And so when that happens, it just goes to the path of least resistance, bam, off here, and you just ruined this piece of glass that you needed. So I demonstrate the right way, the right way and the wrong way. And we'll do that. We'll try this. Okay, now we're going to get our other cutter, and we're just going to see if we can. Now this, I would say that the Tekta is a little more difficult to cut than now I'm just running this thing. This is that's that Silberschnitt, great cutter. All right, now we'll put it to the test because the Tekta is just a hair more brittle than that Baroque. The Baroque I seldom have a problem with. Okay, now we're going to have to really be careful with this. Okay, and now we're going to show you how to use this thing, really carefully. So let's go back straight this time, the bar straight, because we're going to want to nurse our way through this thing. Okay, we got the fracture started right there. And we may not make this one. Ooh, okay, I got the fracture to there. Now I'm going to turn it sideways. And this is the beauty of this tool. It also probably wouldn't hurt. I should mention this. If you're ordering this tool, go ahead. I'm about a day late saying this. Order a couple more of these little buttons here, because that button is starting to get flat on the top. And they come real pronounced. The more pronounced they are, the better off you are. However, they last quite a little while. I'm thinking now, because this is making it into the curve, that I should go to this other end, because we've got a real good chance of losing that right there, making it around there. So let's come to this other end, straighten this out. Anybody that's bored is already gone. Ooh, now I'm squeezing on that a little harder than I want to. So let's try it again. I backed out way on the edge of the tool here, so I feel like I've got a little more control over the pressure. That still hasn't popped yet. Now we've got a little issue here that we may not get out of. That does not want to fracture. Interesting. Okay. go back here then. Tecta is a different animal than the Baroque. Yeah, see there. We didn't make it. All right. Good luck with that. Anyway, you can see what happens when you. Evidently, I've varied the pressure there just a little bit. Yesterday I was batting 1,000. Today I've got 2 mistakes. No big deal. Anyway, you see how it works, and you see this tool. It'll generally get you out of about any mess. Maybe we try one more of those. Now I'm holding this thing this way, this particular tool. So let's go here. Now what I've done this time is I've increased the amount of pressure. All right. Now we could tap that and probably have moved that along. Okay, here we go. You can already tell the difference. Yeah. Okay, there you go. All right, so what happened there on this one, the pressure a little bit light. Here it is, right here, the one we broke out just now. The pressure a little bit light. Where did that come from? Right there. There you go. The pressure was a little too light, so a lot of times people think, well, I got a bad glass cutter. So what I thought, well, it's my mistake. What did I do wrong? I increased the pressure just a little, and we pop it out right out. One last time. Okay, now, we're going to, I don't think we'll get this, but we'll try. We're going to come down, and I'm really putting the pressure on it this time because I've figured out the formula. No, this isn't going to work. I figured out the formula, and here's the beauty of this tool. You can actually, some people use a real thin, well, we're not going to get this one, but we'll give it a try. I'm not going to get, oh, okay, now we got a long way to go. That fracture ran clear to there. Let's try this now. Meh. Probably not going to make that, but we'll. Good night. We just might. I'm trying to go. Didn't make it. Okay, we didn't make that curve. Anyway, you're not going to use glass generally curved that narrow. But you see how to use the tool. I did a little, not as good today as yesterday, but this glass is a little bit harder. Anyway, demonstrating again now the correct amount of pressure. Okay, that's all I have. I've talked about the lead tool. Cutter's a little bit more. We screwed up enough glass here, but you can get the idea of how to do this. Well, I appreciate your attention, and we forgot about the tool. Let me hold this where you can see this. I write everything in uppercase. This is in lowercase. OneGlassImpressions.com, and they call this thing. I got that where you can see it. Angle lead shears, ALS-V. You know, I would have shut this video down and then looked over and seen this. And it cost me, I don't know, maybe it's gone up in the price now. I bought this in July. It was $40 plus $10 shipping. I thought, well, if it's a rip-off, it is. But that's an amazing tool. If you got nothing else out of this today, you saw a great lead tool. One, and then all lowercase, all one word, OneGlassImpressions.com. I don't know the guy's name, but I know one thing. Whoever invented that, oh man. Anyway, that's it. I appreciate all the time. If you have any questions, be sure and ask me. Next time I come back, we'll do something different. We're going to solder. Okay, bye-bye. Thank you.